Welcome back to Grumpy Vet Garage. When I purchased my 2021 Toyota Supra, my plan was always to try to get more performance out of the car. It was never intended for me to keep the car stock. Doing some research when I was buying the car and had the car, I determined that I wanted to have a goal of making a 600 horsepower street car. I originally purchased the JB4 from Berger Motorsports because I was dissatisfied with the availability of tuning options for the money that were available to cars that had a DME manufacture date of June 2020 or later. I wanted to have a full unlock, one that would be able to give me the ability to expand and do different things. And I felt like the partial unlock wasn't going to give me what I wanted. So I went ahead and went with the JB4. I hoped for unlock capability either remotely or somewhere stateside would become available. And the longer time went on, the more it seemed like that was never going to happen. I'm filming this currently April of 2024. And at this moment, it doesn't seem like it's very likely now or maybe even ever. So with that being said, the JB4 increases performance of the car, but there are some clear limitations. I contacted Jesse DeBeers back in October of 2023. He's the premier Map 6 JB4 tuner around. I contacted him through the SupraMark5.com forums. And in our brief conversation, he stated that with a Map 6 custom tune on the JB4, utilizing e-content ethanol, meth injection, and probably like upgraded turbo, the most I'd be able to get out of the car is maybe 550 wheel horsepower, which is good, but there's also he felt that there might be some drivability issues, and I would be better off going with a DME tune. He urged me to consider BM3 MHD to do a DME tune. He felt that with the amount of money that I was sinking into the car for upgrades with the JB4, if I took those same upgrades and utilized them with a DME tune, that I would get much more performance out of the car. It wouldn't be limited to the 550 horsepower. I very well could get some really big numbers, bigger numbers than I was really looking for. So I know it sounds like I'm bashing the JB4, and I'm really not. It is a good tool, and it is a good option. It's just not the best option. So again, not an expert, but I'm going to make a general statement from my research. It appears that with a JB4, it is a good option for you if your plan is to maintain a stock turbo and you're not looking for power over 500 horsepower. If you're looking for in the 400s and you're planning on maintaining a stock turbo, the JB4 is a good option. Still not the best option, but a good option. So before moving on to why I'm going to do a Femto unlock utilizing MHD, I kind of want to quickly do a shout out. Again, I already mentioned Jesse DeBeers. He has the onefastsuper.com, which is a great website. Plenty of great stuff on there, and he's willing to help anybody that wants to optimize their JB4 tuning on their car. But also, there's another individual. I've never met him. He's also in South Carolina, Colonel Adama. I don't know if he's a colonel. Never met him. But on the Supra Mark V forums, he has been doing a lot of work to push forward the performance of the JB4, kind of help people with reviewing logs and that type of stuff. So him, along with Jesse DeBeers, are really moving the performance capabilities of the JB4 on the A90 Supra forward, and I think it's really good. So if you're still going to run a JB4, go onto the Supra Mark V forums, search for the names Colonel Adama, Jesse DeBeers. There's plenty of content that they have and information that would be beneficial to you. But why I feel the need to go ahead and do the Femto unlock is really going back to a previous video, the news that the MHD Plus tuning is available to Femto unlocked Gen 2 B58s. It was the performance and capability that I was looking for. So just going over a few of the options that they have for you, being able to switch maps on the fly, control burbles, whether or not you want them to be ridiculous, or in my case, possibly turn them off. Cold start, remove that. I mean, I live in South Carolina in the summer. It's 75 degrees in the morning. I really don't need cold start. But also anti-lag, rolling and standing still anti-lag. I'm probably not going to use that. I have a catted downpipe. I think that there's probably some damage that can be done by utilizing anti-lag. But, I mean, it's a great feature for down the road if I decide I want to use it. Also, true flex fuel. So, not an ethanol content analyzer that gives you e-content, and then you have to decide what map you want to use for the amount of E that you have in your tank at the moment, but actual true flex fuel with OTS tunes from MHD. So you can set it up to be able to have anywhere between E10, which is pump gas, and E30 fuel, and it will adjust automatically the flex fuel setting for the best performance you can get with that fuel. So that's a great feature, and again, another reason why I'm thinking I might use E in the future, but I want to get this platform. And then lastly, the motive reflex integration for port injection is very exciting to me. Something that I think I want to do in the future. So going back to the question of stock turbo and having power under 500 horsepower to use the JB4, the answer to both those questions for me is no. I want to upgrade to turbo. I want to have a street car making 600 horsepower, maybe even more. And the JB4, in my opinion, is not going to get me where I want to go. So I believe custom tuning is where I need to go. Now, granted, I'm going to run OTS tunes, off-the-shelf tunes from MHD to start. But a custom tune with the integration to run motive reflex and port injection, that would give me the capability, I believe, to be able to get 550 horsepower with this car, with the proper supporting mods, of course, be able to get 550 horsepower with 93 octane pump gas. And then with ethanol content, well over 600 horsepower, which is more power than I probably want to be running with a stock transmission, maybe upgraded transmission in the future. But I think MHD gives me room to grow. So kind of giving you an idea with the OTS tunes for MHD, what kind of performance am I going to see? With 93 octane pump gas or E10 pump gas, I believe I'm going to see performance similar to whatever you'd be able to get with a MAP 6 tune from the JB4. So leave in the comments whether or not you think that I'm way off base with that. But I believe the performance I'm going to be able to get on 93 octane is going to be similar to whatever custom tuning you could get with the JB4. So I think it's worthwhile there. And then to run an ethanol content up to E30 with the OTS tunes for MHD, power well beyond anything capable with the JB4. Also beyond just the tuning, there's some options you have when you're flashing, no matter what you're flashing to the car, you can turn around and have a few options. Some of those options are, again, I mentioned exhaust burble customization. You can decide whether or not you want to keep it just like it is from the factory and increase that amount, which not for me, maybe a little bit less, or off completely. And then I said cold start delete, remove that feature. You can always turn it back on if it is a cold environment that you're operating in and you need the cold start feature. Then you could always just flash it back on to turn on the cold start. The exhaust flap staying open in sport mode, rather than having it set to open all the time, you can actually have it when you hit sport mode, then it'll open, which is a good option. It's not a big deal breaker, not the main reason I'm doing this. And then a startup roar, which my daughters seem to think is a bit cringy to have it roar every time I crank it. I'm going to try it out and see how I like it. I might cut that off as well. And then sport cooling mode. This is something that's also pretty cool, that you can enable to turn around and get additional cooling if you're tracking the car. I don't think necessarily, now I don't have hard data on this, I have more anecdotal data on this, that the sport cooling mode for driving on the street could be problematic, as in not letting your car really truly come to operating temperature, maybe too much cooling. Again, I might be wrong on that. Again, if you have any disagreements on anything I'm saying, by all means, comment, let me know. I'd be happy to hear your opinions, because this is really just my opinion. You tell me what you think. But there is that option to do that. And if you're going to go on the track with your car, I think the sport cooling option is something great to have. So as with life, changing directions. JB4, again, I don't want to bash the capability of the JB4, because it is a very capable platform. there just is a limitation, and that limitation doesn't get me to the goal that I've set for myself. So with that being said, first step to getting the Femto unlock done is to remove the DME. So let's go ahead and set up to remove this DME. So removing the DME, you would think it would start up here with the DME, but really we need to go to the back and disconnect the battery. So in the trunk of the car, before disconnecting the battery, you're going to want to put something in the lock mechanism for the hatch so that the hatch can't close on you. It opens by battery power, so when we disconnect the battery, if it closes, we won't be able to open it this way. We'll have to climb through to the back and pull the emergency pull. So just make sure to do yourself a favor, tie something through here just to prevent it from closing. But now we need to come over to the battery. Of course, this is the positive side, and here's the negative side. We need to disconnect the negative terminal. To disconnect it, you're going to use a 10 millimeter wrench or 10 millimeter socket, but we just need to loosen it and then disconnect the terminal. So I disconnected the terminal and just pushed it to the side. I'm going to end up covering this with a rag just so that it doesn't turn around and manage to make its way back to the negative terminal and reconnect the battery. But the whole reason behind disconnecting the battery is because we're going to be disconnecting all the connections on the DME. It is highly unlikely, but still possible, that you could ground or short out a pin on the DME while disconnecting it. And it's a very expensive piece. Anybody that's even thought about cloning a DME rather than doing an unlock by itself realizes that these DMEs are expensive. So take yourself a little bit of prevention and disconnect the battery so you don't have any issues disconnecting the DME. So back underneath the hood, now we need to go ahead and remove the actual DME itself. So starting here with the ECU cover, it just pops on just like the engine cover pops on the top of the engine. It's got like the little push clips. So you just lift straight up and you can see them. They're like this ball style fittings. They pop in there covering up the actual DME. So now that we have the DME right here, we need to disconnect all of these connectors that hold the that are connected to the DME, and they work almost like a cam lock. So we're going to turn around and depress this button right here, and then be able to move this forward, this lever, and it will cam up the connector for it to disconnect just like that. Now, the good thing about these connectors, you can label them if you like, but they only go in one position. So they're not going to fit in a different order than they are. I'm still going to end up putting painter's tape and then going from the front to the back, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, just for my sake, but they're not going to go back any other way. So as you can see, just basic labeling, label number 1, and then you're just going to move all the way down to all the plugs until it's all disconnected. Okay, so as you can see, they're all labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If you decide you don't want to label them again, they're not going to go in other orders. So, but I just figured I'd go ahead and label them anyways. But now we need to just go ahead and just make sure these are kind of pulled out of the way. You don't want to be too rough with them, but just kind of make sure they're off to the side. But with them all pulled off to the side, now we can see the top of the DME. So as you can see, there is the top of the DME. Now, to actually remove the DME from the holder that it's in, if you look right here and there, you see clips. And those clips are what's holding or retaining the DME down in the holder. It literally just slides down into the holder. So we need to depress these 2 clips and then lift the DME out of position. Okay, it's coming up. You just want to take your time. You're not trying to, it's not a race, but you're not trying to break anything either. So just make sure to pull it up slowly. And there it is. So as you can see, metal on this side. It's also metal on this side of the heatsink, but the retaining side is this side. Okay, as you can see, DME is still removed. And I'm going to go ahead and lock. And unlock still works. So the car is still functioning as far as like the body control. It just will not run, which is fine. But the key thing you need to remember is this process can take a little bit of time. So you're going to want to run a battery tender. So over here, I already have the cover removed. This is your positive terminal underneath the hood of the car. And then this is your ground strap over here that you can ground a battery charger. What's cool about electricity is you don't have to use that one over there. You can connect here and then ground to the strut tower, and that will also give you the ground that you need. But I'm going to go ahead and install my battery charger so that you can see how it's going to work. This battery charger, I've been using ones like this for years. They're great, very smart. You're not going to have problems with it damaging batteries, but you just plug it in, set it to for a car, in this case an AGM, and then it's also doing a reconditioning. You can see it's already working charging. I hope you can see that. But the connection, again, just go to the positive terminal underneath the hood, and then I just go to the strut tower bolt. I don't see the need to go all the way over to the ground post over there. It's grounding to the chassis. You're just trying to make a ground so that the battery will charge. So, okay, so hopefully you've been able to see that removing the DME from your Supra is not that difficult. There's really the one thing: you got to disconnect the battery to make sure you're not going to ground anything out when you're removing the plugs. What I didn't film was you need to reconnect the battery so that you can run your battery charger. So you disconnect the battery, remove the DME, and then you can reconnect the battery and then connect your battery charger for the duration of the time it's going to take for it to go over to Femto and come back. What I didn't cover earlier was the service that I'm using to get the Femto unlock done. I'm using Euro Performance Center to do this process. So it's not a very difficult process. I went ahead and emailed them just to make sure that I understood the process. You are going to log on, you're going to make your purchase of your unlock, and then if you're needing to buy tuning software, you need to buy that as well. And then they will, after you've completed the purchase, they will then put you in line to get the actual service where you actually go over to Finland. So I bought mine right after MHD Plus for the Gen 2 B58 came out, and I had to wait roughly 3 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, to get this sent out. I purchased it right away, and they told me, hey, we're going to send an email out to you about a week before the trip so that you can pull your DME and send it to them. And that's exactly what happened. I got the email. It's got detailed instructions on what you need to do. It comes with a prepaid label for, in my case, UPS. I'm not sure if they also use FedEx. Not a huge fan of FedEx. Sorry, FedEx. But they have a UPS prepackaged letter, so that's good for me. But they give instructions on what kind of box, what size you should have roughly. They give you a gauge that you should have 3 to 4 inches all the way around. But the key thing to remember here is you need to purchase the unlock and tuning software ahead of time so that you can get in line. They'll send you an email with instructions. Complete those instructions, remove your DME, and they actually give you a deadline of when you need to have the DME to them. I wouldn't cut this close. So it needs to be there 5 days from when I'm recording this. But the thing is, you have to get it to the UPS store or UPS drop off, wherever you're doing. It then needs to be actually shipped and then delivered. There's weekends potentially involved. So you don't necessarily want to cut it close and barely try to get it there. Another thing that I'm assuming people will bring up, and I've thought about, is shipping it myself straight to Femto. There is a process to do that. And the only reason that I think that this service is worthwhile compared to just sending it yourself DHL is customs. My years in the Air Force, so many times we've done all the paperwork, we've done everything right, but we're sending something that somebody doesn't know what it is. They're confused by it. They don't, oh, what is this? And it sits there. Customs is really not in any hurry to get things done. So I think the service where somebody is hand carrying this over, if customs has any questions, there's somebody from Euro Performance Center right there to answer that question. They have a whole Pelican case full of DMEs. They have all the questions figured out. They've done this numerous times compared to if you do it with DHL and it goes through customs, a customs office that maybe hasn't seen something like this, they don't know what it is, they may be confused and just put a hold on it. So that's the reason that I didn't go a direct ship from myself to Femto. On top of that, I'm not sure, considering how long things are to ship overseas, how much quicker it might be than actually sending it to Euro Performance Center and having them have a direct flight to Finland to personally deliver, have the work done, and then fly back. I think that could be just as quick. So that's my 2 cents. Again, this whole video really is about my opinion. You know, my opinion is about going with MHD Plus and doing a Femto unlock now, but also my opinion on that I think it's worth it to have the hand carry service that Euro Performance Center provides. Again, for clarity, Euro Performance Center hasn't paid me anything. I wish they had cut me a deal. MHD cut me a deal. But this is all stuff I'm paying for with my own money. And that's how I spent my money, and how, if I had to give you some advice on how to spend your money, what you should probably do. So I hope this really helped somebody that has questions or not quite sure what they want to do. Do I want to stay with the JB4? Do I want to do a Femto unlock? But I'm here to help. If you have any comments or any concerns, please put them in the comment section of this video. Please like, share, subscribe to my channel. Subscribing to the channel will help me out the most. We also have a Grumpy Vet Garage merch store. The link to that store is in the description as well. Buy a shirt. That helps out the channel to grow as well. But until see you next time, thanks for coming and seeing me in my garage, and have a good one.